I would like to invite Anwar Omeish, an activist and student at Harvard University, to give her spoken word performance.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Before we start, I would like everybody to stand up. Okay, take a step to your right. Okay, now you can sit back down. I was once at this thing, and this girl did this exact thing, and then she told us, a good speech is supposed to move you, and I did what I have to. I'm gonna go sit down now. No. But I don't actually have a speech for you today. I have a poem, so this doesn't apply. This is a poem called Countdown for a Silent Film. I wrote it specifically for this event, and I want you to know before I start that everything I mention, every event or happening that I mention in this poem has actually happened. So it serves as an awareness thing and also as a call to action towards the end. All right. So, countdown to a silent film. -5. The schools are bursting with Mandarin, characters bleeding out of windows and accents oozing down walls. The soil of Kashgar yearns for the tongue of those whose lifeblood has nurtured it all. It can hear is silence, press pause. -4. The food is overflowing, beer mixing with food, mixing with beer, again sickening. In its plenty, the bodies have found nourishment, but the soul yearns for the yearly hunger pangs, part and parcel of a month of purification. All it can hear is silence, press pause. -3. The home is no longer here, the rubble of its destruction marking the spot where the pitter-patter of small feet used to echo. The rubble and stones yearn for those sounds again, but they cannot form walls any longer. All they can hear is silence, press pause. -2. The writer is held behind bars, writing desk cold for lack of his touch, for lack of the spirit with which he infused it. The pens and pencils yearn for their scratching on paper, for the sound of the sentences that invite fire into the soul. All they can hear is silence, press pause. -1. The mosque is still standing, resplendent despite its emptiness. There's nothing sadder than space unused, and Lord knows that the laws keep this one closed far longer than doors ever would. The air in its halls yearns for movement, for a wave that will shake it back to its core. All it can hear is silence. Press pause. 0. Someone opens their mouth. You see, silence is like glass. A crack in one part of the structure is a crack in all of it, winding its way outward in Lichtenberg lines like lightning. Chopin asked us if we've ever heard the earth breathe, but have you ever heard the land heave a great sigh of relief? Have you ever heard the lack of silence so clearly? Press pause. 1. Think of the writer who writes of souls and courage, of pigeons that bite off their tongue, bards behind bars, and freedom fighters behind fictions. Think of his call to wake up in the midst of calls to stay sleeping, of the rage with which he controls himself. Think of the crack he has made in the silence. Press pause. 2. Think of the teacher who waters sprouts with his words, does not let metal bars impede gardens. Think of the children he left behind, children biological and educational alike who will refuse to be caged and instead fly free of restraint. Think of the crack he has made in the silence. Press pause. 3. Think of the woman who covers her head in flowing fabric, keeping her identity in and their repression out. When your very presence is a threat, existence itself becomes an act of resistance. Think of the crack she has made in the silence. Press pause. 4. Think of the hundreds screaming under a sweltering summer sun, demanding a difference in the darkest dimensions of their lives. Think of the voices they bequeath to the sky, painted placards creating cacophonies of color in a bid to make change. Think of the crack they have made in the silence. Press pause. 5. Cross one ocean 2 continents and several seas, and happen upon a small room and a small library in a country large in both size and power, think of what you have heard, think of what you have seen, think of what you know, and think of the crack you can make in the silence. Press play. Thank you.
Thank you, sister.